Hello and welcome to episode 276 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 21st of March 2019. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I'm joined by Philippa Waugh.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm eating a sweet.
I know. And Alex Wiltshire. What's your excuse?
None.
Just sonorous. Just sonorous. No Tom's this week because Tom Francis is at GDC, which we'll inevitably talk about a bit in a minute. And Tom Senior, I believe, is probably playing Sekiro right now.
That was my guess.
That's
yes.
my guess. He said he was reviewing something. It's probably Sekiro. Sekiro's not out until tomorrow, and I'm very jealous of him because he's a special Friday boy for whom it gets to be Friday earlier.
But
and I remain a Thursday wretch. Alex?
Did you ever review a Dark Souls? Or
no, I didn't.
I don't think that they are good for the soul.
But it renders you unbearable forever, having had the experience of reviewing a Dark Souls before anyone else knows what that is.
Don't you have to join secret email chains?
You
for
do,
people
yeah.
Who get stuck?
I think you get help these days. I think you get like.
I thought that was entirely against the ethos of Dark Souls.
Maybe, yeah.
Games. They put, you'd email them and say, "I'm really stuck," and they just be like, "Yes."
No, I think Namco gives you a special envelope with information and guides and God knows what. Money. Not money. No money.
No.
Previously, it was just an immense feeling of self-satisfaction followed by a book deal.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's all meant
He's
with
not
love.
bitter,
I'm
though.
not bitter. I just wish I'd got to play Dark Souls when everyone else did before everyone else got to be super cool about it. It's on me, really.
Are these on purpose burns, or are they just general?
Oh, they're just omnidirectional.
Okay.
I just really want to play Sekiro, alright? It's out tomorrow. I just had a stupid idea today that I would go into town and that it would be on sale today. It's out tomorrow, but I was just like, maybe they would sell it to me today. Like, go on, game man. Can I have
Isn't
it?
that what some stores do?
Yeah.
If they get into trouble, they have like backroom dealings and things.
Yeah, I thought maybe like
Yves
Tesco's.
Gilmour himself charges out of an unmarked van across the road.
Well, we know where he
rests
is at
it
the
from my
moment
hands.
because he was at GDC, was
That's
he
true.
not? So,
But he's omnipresent.
do you
so-
think that
He is.
maybe he's got there are a few of him,
Yeah.
There are.
his clone army,
There are many.
like Yves Gilmour?
Yeah, exactly. Why else? Why else the plural?
Yeah, I mean,
So he's a one-man crime fighting squad, or one man but many bodies crime fighting
One man,
organism, like
that
a
X-Man.
mushroom.
launch date Crusader.
why was Yves Gilmour the person who sprang to your mind, given that he has nothing to do with Sekiro at all?
Because I saw him on the telly the other day.
Oh, I see.
Literally, that is the only reason. I saw him and I thought, good old Eve with his wrinkly face, wrinkly eyes. He's quite smooth skinned in the cheeks. But his eyes are all crinkled up and I like them.
That was Jeremy Corbyn. I've told you before.
He's the one, isn't he just the one gaming CEO it's okay to like?
Yeah, he is. I've met him and quite liked him. So, yeah.
I don't know.
Shout out to Eve.
Yeah. Shout out all to Eve, all the Eves. All the Eves out there.
Everyone.
Every Eve listening tonight. We see you.
Even though apparently we can't see you properly because we don't really know what you look like.
This game was made by a multicultural team of many Eves and Eves.
Manifold Eves.
Manifold. There's so many. There are so many.
Evil Legion.
But none of them will let me play. By the time you listen to this, I will already be playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice,
And
the game from From Software.
it would be pissed off with it and thinking, why did I start?
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Sounds really fucking horrible.
It sounds great.
Are you a Dark Souls fan, Alex?
I think I want to like it, and I did play almost all of Dark Souls 3, and I've enjoyed, and there's always a point where I just think, oh god, no.
It's okay not to like them, this is a safe room.
But what about the people listening? They're judgy.
They can enjoy something without you having to enjoy it. It's like going to a restaurant. You don't have to order the same thing as the person on the next table.
That means I have to make choices.
I don't like Dark Souls games. I don't get them. They're not for me, and that's okay.
That is okay.
Don't you like knights?
Nights.
Yeah.
With the... What? Like now, as in now? As in night time?
Knights.
No,
Armoured
what
knights.
knights? Oh. I mean, why? Like, I mean, it depends on the night. Like, do you, as a concept or as an aesthetic, or I don't.
See, I think a lot of the reason I do want to like Dark Souls, and I do think I do like it. There's just a point with it. It's just it gets a bit on top of me, but I like it because of I like all the knights and I like the castles. Like
there
castles.
are other games and also historical reenactments that you might like.
I'm not doing
that guy from that
no
thing,
offense
that studio, Rebellion, Jason Kingsley.
He does, doesn't he?
He dresses up like a knight,
He
doesn't
goes on a horse, doesn't he?
You could just make friends with him and add him to your CEO collection. And you'll be able to tell who he is because he'll be the one that's dressed like a knight.
The real Dark Souls was the Jason Kingsley we befriended along the way.
He'd be a lot taller than you, though, because he's got a horse.
That's true.
And horses are traditionally quite tall. Pardon?
You'd be taller on a horse.
I mean...
But apparently I don't get to go on the horse because I'm not a knight.
You could ride, like, behind him.
Hang on. Literally, like, almost none of the knights in Dark Souls have a horse. At one point, a crow picks you up. True. That's not the same thing. You get eaten by Peter Frampt. Whatever his name is.
Peter Frampton?
Yeah. The King Serpent or something.
And ironically, isn't one of the early bosses in Sekiro a mounted...
I haven't. I've avoided all information apart from that I want it.
The only information is I want it.
So hang on, how do you know that you want it?
Because it's by Hidetaka Miyazaki, and it's like the other ones he's made in it. It's about being punished for trying to play it in a way that you like.
Because Miyazaki feels punished by the fact that it's all he's allowed to make, so he's going to make you suffer too.
But what was that other From Software game that was infinitely better?
Bloodborne.
No.
Demon Souls.
No.
Chrome Hounds. That's
look up their other output, because I
one.
swear there's another game that I argue for from their back catalogue. Turn,
okay,
go.
I've got to Google something.
Internet. We have the tools.
Well, he fires up the internet facility. What should we talk about?
Well, the gears whir and the lever is pulled.
Metal Wolf Chaos.
No.
Shadow Tower.
Things. No.
They've made quite a lot of rubbish games.
De Racine.
Hang on, you two talk. I'll go have a look.
Kingsfield.
Well, that's the very
Kuon.
That's
Armored Core. This is literally all of them. Hang on. There you go. There's the list. Alex.
Hi. How have you been?
It's curry mix.
You're not near a microphone. God. Now you've kicked mine.
Hang on.
Curry mix.
Hello. Yes. So it's a PlayStation 2 game where you control two rabbits on either side of a racetrack, and they have to co-op each other along, and you use both analog sticks to move each of them independently. I believe it was called The Adventures of Cookie and Cream in America, maybe over here. Don't know. It's great. Brilliant.
Biscuits and cream here.
Scones and cream.
Scones and cream.
But yeah, so that was certainly a thing, and it was better. I know it's falling.
I'd like to... also, your microphone's falling over, but also, I'd like to congratulate you on delivering the most... possibly the spiciest... actually, my Dark Souls' opinion is better take that we've ever had on this podcast. That is as
spicy.
hipstery a cut. That's not just, you don't even like Demon Souls or Kingsfield. That is...
you like Dark Souls?
Have you even heard of Cookies and Cream?
Curry mix, please.
Curry mix.
Yeah, she's called it by the original release.
Possibly in Japan, but it probably wouldn't have been because that's an English translation, right?
Good God.
It's really good. They should do more of that.
I'm sure it is.
It was quite hard.
I'm sure it is.
It was quite hard. And did the horses going past, were they
there were time limits and everything.
Lights on them.
You had to coordinate both your thumbs.
Did it teach you anything about the divine right of kings?
No, it taught you about cooperation.
Oh shit. That's the opposite of that.
But yeah, so there we go.
Incredible.
That's From Software's best game.
Alright, fine. I'm no longer excited for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Well, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Unless it turns out to be a secret stealth sequel.
To curry mix.
Yeah, up, down, left, right, and then you're in it.
Yeah, so just two rabbits by the side of the road. That's how the whole thing ends. Like every From Software game, you zoom out, and it's some kind of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead style kind of, like it's just two rabbits having a conversation. I don't know what I'm fucking talking about. Let's talk about
Has there been any news, Chris?
There is, yeah, there has. Before we get on to the news that everyone doesn't want to talk about, I thought we could talk about something quite nice, which is the IGF Awards.
Oh, yeah?
Which were last night. Pip, did you watch them live?
No, I didn't, but I was catching up on them today because Meg Giant was their host, and she always is good to, to watch or talk to or listen to. And she did an amazing job hosting, and it was a good thing that she was there, that she spoke the way she did, that the script was what it was. And yeah, there was a lot of just basically, we need to denounce all the bullshit, all the Nazis, the white supremacists, the people who want to make games like this awful repository for crap, because otherwise there's no room for anyone else. Like they take all the space and energy, and I know that she's had a bunch of like just bullshit to deal with off the back of it. Like she put on Twitter about the fact that when you do that kind of thing, like or when she, as a woman of colour and a visible person, does these things, you spend time beforehand locking down your accounts, all of that stuff. And then you spend hours afterwards, days, whatever, like dealing with, abuse, with threats, with like slurs. And I think one of the things that was important in that thread when she was talking about that stuff was the role of the people who aren't the direct, targets of those attacks, to stand up against them and to call them out where possible. Because if you have a modicum of power in that industry, like it shouldn't be on the people who get treated as if they're on the bottom rung to educate and to stand up for themselves and to support each other. And there was actually another but a good sentiment that I saw on GDC related Twitter, which was, I can't remember who it was by. I don't know if it was Meg or a retweet but it was pointing out that a lot of people who have been marginalized and who have sort of managed to get into the industry, are often sort of, they want other people who have those same barriers and stresses to contend with. They want to reach out and help them, and often they are willing enough to do that it's something that you're kind of willing to do free of charge or to put energy into, but it is work, and people need to recognize that it is, just because they're willing to do it because it's valuable and worthwhile. Like it shouldn't be an unpaid, unthinking, like people will just do this free of charge cost, which I thought was worth amping up. Or
yeah, I said I hadn't had a chance to watch the intro to the IGF yet, because really hard to find the stream, but we seem to have tracked it down now. So I'll put a link in the show notes so people can watch that.
If you need it.
Yeah, because it's not currently on any of their channels, I don't think, as you can click this to watch it now type thing, but it is findable. So I'll put a link in the show notes for the beginning of the awards, because I haven't had a chance to watch all of it, but like certainly the parts that I have managed to see so far, like, because it's a decently lengthed ceremony, but even if you only have time to watch the intro speech, it's worth hearing. Well, I thought we could run through the winners as well, just to kind of draw some, because we traditionally do this, we might as well just to talk about games what done good.
And
Thank you, Alex. While I rotate towards the screen. Keep going.
You need like a drum beat, don't you?
And then you've got to announce
I have no rhythm.
The award in excellence in visual art.
Oh God, that's not the top. Is Mirror Drop by Ian Lilly.
Was that excellence in visual art?
In visual art, yeah.
I haven't played this one.
I haven't either.
Neither have I.
Good quality.
We're good at this, aren't we?
Good content.
It looks like this.
Ooh.
It's a 3D puzzle game with beautiful colours. None of us have played it, so we can't say much more than
It
congratulations.
looks kaleidoscopy, which is automatically of interest, so I will check that out soon.
Alex, do you want to send me bouncing up and down the category list in
Yeah,
a different
sure,
arbitrary
okay.
direction now?
And excellence in audio goes to Paratropic.
Oh, you've read out the whole thing? You can't be both halves of the voice of God. I've written an award show, Alex, twice. I know this.
But the thing
I have played this one, though.
You've got to hand over to
is,
me.
though, Alex would say the nominees are,
and then
the host
the nominees
says the winners are. No, I'm saying that actually you're both right or wrong.
Yeah, that is basically my normal state.
So, I mean...
Schrodinger's Pratt.
Exactly. I played Paratropic and I like it very much.
Good.
Cool.
It is creepy and weird and surprisingly oddly funny in places as well. And you get to drive around and listen to the radio.
Is it scary, though?
No, not
like I
disquieting.
Could play it,
it is
or...
disquieting.
Okay. Maybe a daytime game then for
me. Well, yeah.
Daylight.
Probably.
Very daylight.
But it's, like it does sort of jump cuts and things like that, but not in a jumping way.
Okay.
They're just jump cuts.
What did it beat, Chris?
What did it beat? The nominees in this backwards category, Excellence in Audio, were Alto's Odyssey, Ethereal, Hypnospace Outlaw, Moss, and Return of the Obra Dinn.
Well,
Obra Dinn has amazing music.
It does, yeah.
And I'm not saying that to knock the other games, I'm just less familiar, and Obra Dinn really stayed with me. It was one of those ones where I could hear some of the music
the bong
in my
sound
head.
as well.
For ages afterwards. But it was, so if it ranked above that, then that is cool.
It's it's like
and
there's some good music in
and
that.
this isn't meant to be glib, but excellent, because I knew that sort of Lucas Pope had kind of done everything, right? Almost everything for that game.
Yeah.
It was, just an incredible array of, men going,
Actually, that would also count for the voice actors who were good as well. Like the accents and whatnot.
That's what I mean. Yeah. He didn't do that bit.
He did every voice.
He did every voice.
Even the Welsh ones.
Incredible. Even those.
Hypnospace Outlaw, I could also give a shout out to its sound because it's got amazing MIDI music in it.
I haven't played it properly yet. I played it to the extent where, because I didn't want to spoil it for myself before I could actually sink into it. But the editor where you can put together your own web pages.
Right, yeah.
I did one of the PC Gamer back pages as I basically redesigned PC Gamer's homepage to be in that format, and it was just so much better. There was dripping blood because, how else can you express?
Did you have a skull going round and round?
No, trophies. To sort of really cement the number one in PC gaming coverage thing.
Excellent.
And like a penguin. The cool, the snowman, the cool club snowman thing that they've got.
Yeah.
I used that to represent the PC gaming club. Because it was just like, you want to
cool
be a cool kid. It was such a good website, Alex. I
need to go there.
I don't understand why they didn't implement it. I really don't.
I would like to moderate that.
Anyway.
Alex, want to give me another category?
Oh, yes.
Try and
the third category is excellence in design.
And the winner is, I guess... Opus Magnum.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
We didn't have a plan for which one
we
of us was
didn't.
going to do.
I've totally confused as to what the hell you want to do, but
me too. Good job, Zach.
I think that any long-term listener will know that is an approved game.
Yeah, it's a good game. I'm not very good at it, but it makes me happy to try.
but that is one of its cool things, which is, you can totally just you can play the levels in the way you want, and you can choose an easy-ish early one and perfect it in the way that you want to as well.
So some and some, because you can obviously also post GIFs of what you've done.
Yeah, well, there is
quite
a
easily.
bit of social pressure.
And so, like, the easiest way to find out where you have fallen short as a human being is to post one of them online and wait 5 minutes.
But then you just say, well, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was actually trying to be the biggest machine.
I think this is very beautiful.
Yeah.
So shut up.
This has an internal elegance.
And I don't understand what you just said to me. Goodbye. I think what I don't understand about it yet is quite how to only create part of a loop that happens, because you know how essentially, so for people who don't know, you make command lines for different components on a hex grid, and as they go through those motions, they assemble things. It's like, it's a production line thing. But I've seen things online where people have only part of a thing, like, written out, whereas I would have written the whole, like, all of the different steps. And they seem to have just the innate ability to see how much of a segment of action they need to put in.
Well, you
so
don't
that
know
it repeats.
It took 4 days of constant iterating.
I know, just to get a half-second GIF that they can lord it over me on that internet with. It's, so annoying.
It's interesting. The other nominees in this category were Terry Kavanagh's Dicey Dungeons.
Good. Very good.
Do Not Feed the Monkeys, which is a...
is that a surveillance?
It's a command I certainly don't intend to follow. Noita, Return of the Obra Dinn, and What the Golf.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There you go. We can dig into all of them, but obviously good
I
set.
get a lot of emails about What the Golf.
Alex, give me one of them categories.
The next category is Excellence in Narrative.
Excellence in Narrative celebrates, sorry, I'm writing the golden joysticks again. This was won by Return of the Obra Dinn.
Cool.
Good job.
Yeah. Had a good story.
Yeah, and told in an innovative way.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it was very good.
It was good.
Yeah, that's good.
Well deserving. What were the nominees?
The nominees were Genital Jousting.
I didn't know that had a story.
Me neither.
No.
Seer's Isle.
Okay.
Unavowed.
Okay.
Wonder Song.
Okay.
And Watch Me Jump.
I don't know that.
That's the name of a game.
Just like, why? You're not jumping.
I haven't heard of that last one. I will look it up.
By Jeremy Gable. Should we move on to the next category?
Nuovo. Nuovo
and
award.
The award for pronunciating Nuovo goes to
Nuovo.
Alex Wiltshire. The winner of the Nuovo award was Black Room by Cassie McCater.
I had a little tinkle on this one earlier on.
Do you mean tinker with?
Tinkle.
No, Alex says he had a little tinkle on things. We haven't had the heart to
and then
tell
my
him.
screen started showing out and I don't know what went wrong.
It's an edge thing.
Smell. Like, is this because you wanted to own it? Like, is this a cat thing?
What? Like, I see, like some sort of territorial claim.
Yeah, like what?
A territorial pissing.
Yeah. Anyway, how was it?
I had a go on it.
Okay. You went on it.
So I didn't know anything about it at all. I didn't read any of the write-ups, but it was just something that I just thought, because I think I read Alistair Connor's post on Rock Paper Shotgun about the awards, and she said that it has the best URL of all time, and I wonder whether I can find it, because it's going to take me so long to read it out that I'm not going to even bother. Basically, its URL is the maker has just gone on the keyboard, because it's all the keys on the fingers, where you would always do random typing.
Like where you get like JFAD.
Yeah, H and so on the other side, yeah. So, I'll never be able to go back to it again, because I'll never be able to find it. But, it's that, and it's a website. It's a game, what is a website, and, it mucks around with what browsers do and what they can have. So as you mouse over things, it'll reveal bits of story and bits of dialogue, and you've generally got to find something in the scene in order to get to the next page or the next part of the game. And you find the bits. Well, kind of. It's not hard to see because it is haloed in bright magenta.
Oh.
But in order to find it, you have to resize your window, and it uses sort of CSS, to kind of the percentage changes just in such a way that it is revealed when you kind of make the window small or narrow or whatever.
I want to play that.
And it's a weird story about a game, and I don't really understand it.
Cool.
And mums.
And mums.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the other?
The other ones in that category were Circle Zero, Do Not Feed the Monkeys, E-Cheese Zone, Mirror Drop, Noita, Nth Dimensional Hiking, and Paratropic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Should we go for Best Student Game next? I don't actually know any of these except Grace Bruxner Presents The Haunted Island Frog Detective Game, which was one of the runner-ups. The winner was After Hours, where hours is capitalized.
Hours!
Yeah.
After Hours!
I didn't know about that before I watched that award part of the ceremony, and I was intrigued, and I would like to know more.
I believe it's an FMV game.
But yeah, so I would like to...
Which is cool. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll stick a link to the IGF finalists page in the show notes.
There is the grand prize. We haven't actually...
Yeah, we haven't done that because you skipped it, Alex.
Well, we do that at the end, don't we?
Yeah, but they put it at the start.
You made an editorial decision about structuring this awards show. Not consulting me.
Well,
to be fair to Alex, he was doing the lineup that you would do in a normal awards show where you end with the grand prize.
You might have heard of how to structure award shows.
But their website obviously needs you to know the big thing first. Yeah. So the news pyramid versus the news butt up pyramid.
Butt up pyramid.
I realised I didn't know what an upside down pyramid was.
It's a butt up pyramid now is what it is.
Oh.
Because as everyone knows, the bottom level of a pyramid is its ass. All the way to its tiny head.
All the Egyptians going, it takes so long to finish the ass.
It does take a long time. We can't bury him.
Don't die yet. We haven't finished the ass.
Well,
but also, why is it a news pyramid? Because it's not 3-dimensional. It's only 2-dimensional.
It's a triangle.
It's a triangle.
Yeah.
Hang on. Does anyone call it a pyramid or do they call it a triangle?
It's a news pyramid, isn't it? The pyramid of news.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
You know, where you lead with all the big top information and then you spend the rest of the time fleshing out the stuff.
So, hang on. Which way is that a pyramid?
Well, I mean, I didn't invent this term. It's been a thing that's kicking around for many a year. It's like an official journalism thing.
I think I may have heard it as
that you'd know about
funnel.
if you were still a journalist.
All right. Okay, hands up if you're still a journalist in this room.
Oh, hang on, that's me.
Nice. I'm still technically in the NUJ, so...
Should we reveal...
I think we haven't talked about this. Pip, congratulations on...
I left PC Gamer. I'm an award category for leaving.
Finest leaving from PC Gamer.
Best use of GIFs in a leaving email.
It was very good.
There's one of Celine Dion as my permanent out of office now. She's just like waving goodbye.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to find out about it.
Find out about it by emailing Pip at work.
Yeah.
During a podcast, are you mad? Anyway, while you're doing that, I'm going to read out the results for the grand prize. It was Obra Dinn, everybody.
Nice.
Obra Dinn won it.
Well done. I mean, that's quite a good game.
Well done, Bradin.
Well done, Bradin.
Yeah.
It's quite a good game, says Alex, the highest praise.
Yeah. Other finalists in that category were Do Not Feed the Monkeys, which apparently we need to check out.
Apparently it's really good.
I really do think it's about surveillance, but
I'll open the link. Hang on. Hypnospace Outlaw, Minute to win it.
That's the one about the recursive, you've got a minute to do stuff and then you get sent back.
Noita.
Cool.
And Opus Magnum. So
that's a good list of games. That reminds me that we've had a good year for games.
Yeah, Do Not Feed the Monkeys is a unique digital voyeur simulator. Spy on people through dozens of hacked surveillance cameras, aka cages, and pry into their lives using information you find out about them.
There we go.
Will you be able to make a living when you get more and more cages, or will you help the watched people, aka the monkeys? Or will you harm them? Maybe you'll stick to rule number 1, do not interact with the people you spy on, also known as the Prime Directive. I've seen Star Trek. Remember, do not feed the monkeys, also known as the Prime Directive. I've seen Star Trek.
That's the secondary.
That's the second directive. No, I think it's basically the first directive as well.
But anyway, I think the important thing to take away from this is me being right.
Yeah. Yeah, you were correct. I mean, you've been right about almost everything on this podcast so far, Pip.
Oh, fantastic.
Especially From Software.
Yeah, exactly. You shamed both Alex and I.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you want a hot take. Oh, allow me.
Oh, that flute looks a little bit easy to grasp. Wait until I unearth this hitherto unheard of trombone.
It's not unheard of. It's really good.
Some people have heard of it, Pip.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Wikipedia has heard of it.
Wikipedia.
I was going to say, I didn't remember how to pronounce it halfway through the word. Wikipedia. Yeah. Wikipedia. Wikipedia.
Let's not.
Anyway.
But those are the IGF results. We've done it now. Alex, you were looking at Pip's out of office, or are we done with that?
I'm done with that.
Get it?
Okay.
I've realised I couldn't be bothered to type your name in.
That's fair.
Because I don't have your work email in my phone.
Oh, it was pip@pcgamer.com.
Oh, can you spell that for me?
pip@pip.biz.
It is now.
No, pip.biz is taken.
Oh no.
It's really
Monsters. Monsters.
So, on that, as an addendum to last week's thing, Tom did not...
I gave him so much
You did,
warning.
and he did not. And I've seen some chats saying, what the hell? He didn't grab them.
About what?
So Tom... You go, Alex.
Well, we were talking about... I don't know how this came up, but basically... Tom should get the website's addresses.
Right.
Defenestration.cool
right.
and Windows not cool for his franchise.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, because he should.
I literally was sat, and people will love to hear this because they love to moan about the podcast being a little bit late. I was sat ready to publish, and I sent Tom a message and said, I'm ready to publish this podcast. I'm going to do it. I'll give you an hour. Go register Defenestration. He apparently does not think this is important.
I think he went, ha ha, thanks, or something like that.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
Well, there you have it. Whoever's bought...
Well, he's lost the franchise now, and I think that means copyright law-wise, everybody we all own his franchise now.
Yeah. He's away. Do you want to go hang out in his house?
Yeah.
You two aren't lawyers, are
we could go in through the window, which is legally distinct.
We can smash it in because legally you didn't
it's not
register those
defenestration,
URLs.
not infenestration.
Exactly.
Penifenestration.
Ooh.
But because defenestration just means you've taken the window out.
Oh, don't start.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Right.
You must do, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like you're breaking it, it's that you're, you've removed it. So.
She's picking holes.
Don't
pick holes in URLs.
Exfenestration is when the Pope throws you through a window. Yeah. Oh man, I should salt on that idea. There you go. That's game 4. Let's talk about some of the other news that came out of this week in the world of video games.
And GDC.
We've managed to talk for a full 35 minutes without mentioning Google's Stadia. So I've heard, it's been almost a week, and I've heard both and counter and that's the summation of the discourse.
I think Graham delivered
a pretty robust counter.
It was like a like that. It was a middle.
Yeah, he a series of other in a way that.
I don't
what are we
know
talking about?
If this has actually gone online. I should probably have checked, but I wrote accidentally 1,600 word piece about every question, reservation, and downright not cool I have around Google's ideas, rhetoric, and general Stadia idea.
We should,
So-
we should
probably
take the
explain
podcast
it.
to
Yeah.
explain what the hell it is.
Well, it's kind of a love child of OnLive, which is the old cloud gaming proposition that I think Sony ended up picking up the patent
Maybe,
for.
yeah.
No, that was Gaikai. They got
I
Gaikai.
swear that
No, it wasn't.
Google.
Yeah. Okay.
Google it.
I'm right for God's sakes. Because they bought David Perry with it. And he's still an exec there now.
They can own more than one thing.
Pip's right.
Thank you.
They got OnLive as well.
Booyah!
Sold to Sony Interactive Entertainment. OnLive, yeah. They got him. The maniacs, they got him.
Shit. Well done.
Thank you.
You were both right, but yeah, good job.
Well, I wasn't arguing Alex was wrong. I was just arguing that more than one
I
thing
was
can
wrong
be
because I
owned.
said no to you.
Anyway, so it's kind of like a hybrid of that, its existing YouTube, some kind of affiliate link scooping mechanism, and a million other tentacles that it wants to put out into the ether. Essentially, it's just like, oh, we want you to do gaming via us. Please, can we have
I feel like we still haven't really explained what it is.
But that's like,
But that does
it's a
explain
cloud
it.
gaming proposition
Yeah.
where they want to funnel you to that.
Web browser, but any device, but web browser on down to phones.
Yeah. I think the key implementation, and you've gestured this, but it's worth outlining specifically for people on Reddit, is the notion that, you could, for example, launch directly from a YouTube video into playing that game from the same point, via your browser at HD 4K, 60 frames a second, 100 millisecond lag.
So, and that you could then pause it on one thing and pick it up on another device, or I don't know.
Which, like,
All of
it sort
that
of, it
kerfuffle.
seems kind of saying, but like, of course it can do that. Like, you know, it's just a fucking
Well, there's
video
Shadow
stream.
as well that can currently do that as well, so.
Yeah. And there's also, one of the things that was really irritating me was that first it was being, described as being an incredible new thing, which I remember struggling with OnLive in my old house in 2011 or something.
I had
So,
a
like-
dusty box of OnLive under my bed as little as 6 years ago.
And then, but it was a bit sort of as if it was brand new. And like, what is new here is that Google has its infrastructure. And so this will be the best implementation of it in terms of, you know, it's pure technology.
I mean, it's got a low
so
bar
far.
to clear, though, has it not?
No, for sure. But then, you know, it's like with this kind of service though, like the problems with it, you don't know whether it's on the server side or whether it's anything that happens to that stream between you and there and in your own house and all that crap. But I, you know, as somebody who can't even fucking get Steam Link working smoothly inside my house, I just think, nah.
I think, I mean, it's obviously an idea that has merit. And then the best example of this is that, the performance side notwithstanding, there's obviously a case that access is a thing that people, you know, there's a bigger audience out there than have access to any form of dedicated gaming machine. There's a reason Fortnite is as big as it is, and it's essentially the word phones. So, you know, there's a case, and this is not a case to be made for Stadia specifically, but for someone figuring out this technology that, as you say, has been around for the better part of a decade. I do totally agree that aside from the fact of Google's both business and, you know, tech kind of clout, there isn't much that's new about this. And I think to some extent a new thing response has been triggered by people being told there's going to be a new thing for several days.
Yeah.
So this is the new thing. It's just not a new thing. It is the new thing, but also not it's an old thing, you know? And then, which would also have been, practically true had they just revealed a potato, you know, because, you know, and that also possibly would have made Pip happier.
I guess it would have depended on the potato.
Or the variety.
Well, I mean, just in terms of why.
I'm Phil Harrison.
Because if they were just...
Here's my potato. Good
But,
night.
you know, if they were just claiming that this potato was special because of them, like, I'm not there for that. But if it was just
pretty
using,
much the message.
if it was them using their platform to highlight potatoes in a helpful way that was more helpful to potatoes than themselves, then, I mean, then I'd have a bit more time for it. But I mean, which basically probably taps into my concerns about big business and Silicon Valley in particular. So.
What we're saying is onionize.
But yeah, and to be fair, I also want to point out that a lot of stuff is still really unknown at this point. Like, they didn't put forward what the business model would be, what the payment would be, how it would function in regard to, like, people's data plans, like, you know, because if it's going to be that, oh, it's only people who have really good internet connections or who can afford particular data packages, then it's like, okay, so it wasn't really going to, you know, reach more people, because it's like, okay, they were probably the ones that were going to have access to technology anyway. It's like, okay, well, great, good.
I mean, they can assume though that access to that stuff is only going to get better though. I mean, they, you know, obviously sort of adoption rates being what they are.
They can assume it, and it might be true to a certain extent, but I think it's that thing of like, it sort of doesn't trickle down in quite the way that I saw a few people talking about, like essentially saying, oh, it means that you wouldn't need a high-end PC and therefore it suddenly makes gaming accessible to people, which is just something that I don't think that you can pronounce at this point, because it's like, well, firstly, if it's still requiring you to spend, you know, if you have to buy $60 for a game and then carry on like with a separate amount of money for a monthly subscription or something, then that's obviously, it changes the thing somewhat, because you're not spending $1,000 on a PC or a, you know, graphics card or something, but it's still not nothing. And so, you know, there's those sides of it. There's how well it works on places where, you know, perhaps you're more rural or don't have a great internet connection or live in a big city that sort of struggles with internet infrastructure. It still sort of might mean that it's the same people.
And if you take them at their word, I'm being a bit sort of devil's advocacy here, because I really don't I don't put a huge amount of truck in this, but at their word, they were saying that because it's using the very data centers that you would use for your kind of your Google inquiry, you know, your queries as they are, they are local to you already, and therefore even if you live in the middle of nowhere, your data center will be surprisingly close. Presumably.
Something I would say to that though is that we have pretty good internet in our house and I still can't get it in the kitchen, or sometimes it just dips out completely, or is, you know, like it.
We can't use Wi-Fi for it because
well,
you're a
but
rail mess.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, no, I was kind of agreeing with you, really.
So there's things like that, and there's also just a bunch of other concerns that I have more broadly, especially around, I don't believe that Google has the capacity to adequately moderate communities. And so I do not see how they are going to make it a less toxic environment and a less gatekeepery or exclusive or
I don't think
poisonous.
Like the only community that would be going on surely is just YouTube, and that's only one kind of interface. Like surely there will be definitely a place where you log into your thing on a web page and there's your games and maybe you have a friends list, and it'll be just like a closed off little thing just for you and whichever friends you invite in, surely, like any game system.
But surely at that point it's not doing anything different. It just means that you're also then giving Google your data or your information about your friends and your play habits. That's not better. And then there's still the YouTube side going on and the comment moderation there that's not adequate. And
I think, but what I'm saying is that I think that YouTube is a separate, I think that.
But they don't want it to be separate. They want those communities. They want to enable people to play with creators and have discourse with creators. They specifically.
I think that is a sales message to game developers to get them to buy in to it. I don't think that Google particularly cares one way or the other.
But they had a creator on stage, like they had a YouTuber on stage to say that they would, you know, like
that was an advert because it means is telling every game developer at GDC, you will get reach for your games through this thing.
Is, like, that stuff is still about essentially putting people in touch with other people, and there are risks there, and there are like moderation questions that Google just haven't answered adequately in any of the formats that they currently have, like, community spaces within, to my mind. And the other thing that really concerns me is that the way that they police their spaces and what they enforce and when, and their community guidelines, means that I think that if this gets big, it could lead to real problems in terms of what games are allowed a platform. Like, I mentioned this in the piece, so I don't know if it'll be stuff that people already know, but I had a strike against my account. I had a video removed because I was talking about the penis slider in Cobra Club. And that was a video that I made specifically for a news article that I wrote for Rock Paper Shotgun, or like a piece about that game. And I appealed it, and it wasn't upheld, like, as in they maintained that I had a strike against my account. They wouldn't let me put up the video again. And it's like, okay, but that means that essentially that's a game that I have been discouraged from talking about on your platform, because if I get more strikes on my account, I then lose the ability to upload videos. And like, they've had a bunch of stuff over the last few years where they have essentially demonetized LGBTQ creators because they have deemed their stuff restricted content and not allowed them to put any adverts anywhere near it. And it's like, if that's, you know, like, if that's how they operate and those things happen because, an algorithm got changed.
But that's, I mean, it's the algorithm thing that worries me. I think is probably a bigger problem to those kind of games. If this becomes a dominant sort of way that people play, it's the fact that I think that, you know, depending on the business model, who knows what it's going to be, I can imagine that the very form of this kind of gaming will inform the kinds of games that are viable on it. But
that's my point, is that, like, they make these changes and then they don't see the ways in which it screws particular groups of people over until it does that. And it has a very real impact on both the voices that you can actually access on that platform and the diversity and support that those people can get on that, like, outlet. And also, like, it has a very real effect on, like, the space and what can be put forward and the things people talk about. And if Google want to be the one destination for people to go, which is what they were essentially pitching for, then is that a one destination where you just never see the people who are creating challenging adult experiences or LGBTQ experiences or like, it's just, there are so many problems that I have with this that they haven't answered. I think
the counterpoint to that is that those people are already desperately underrepresented in physical games retail, on traditional consoles, etc. Right? Like, almost every mainstream form of selling games has excluded people at scale. And that doesn't make this good. In fact, I realized as listening to you to talk about it, I kind of, I worry more about the absolute success of this way of delivering games more than I worry about any specific detail about it.
Yeah.
Because of the effect that it would have.
Yeah.
And I think however, I do trust that, you know, platforms like Itch, for example, and communities of people who still value owning your own hardware with which to experience these experiences will still continue to find each other.
You can also, like, if you look at the video kind of sort of streaming side, like, Netflix is not just blockbusters, and if you go on Amazon Prime, like, the videos on there are many kind of generally excluded voices that I would have never found in my old video shop and that kind of thing. You know, I take all of your concerns and I agree with them, but it's also, like, if you look at other examples, it's down to Google to curate it.
But that's the thing, is I don't trust Google. They have to earn that trust by actually answering those questions and doing the groundwork, because all I can do is look at their existing output, their existing strategies and safeguards and algorithms, and what they have currently, to me, isn't good enough. And it's a company I'm wary of anyway, because they collect so much data, and like I'm wary about giving them more. And there's also, you know, additional things where, you know, they are a big business. They don't have my interests at heart. They have their ad revenue and shareholder interests at heart. And so it's like, you know, I don't think it's sensible to expect a company who follow, for example, the letter of the tax law, but not the spirit of it, to suddenly decide to give back to a community if it's not in their financial interests or time interests.
But like in the same way that, like, you know, Valve is based in Luxembourg because
I'm not saying it's a good thing. Like I'm really wary of all of those companies. I've very much documented my concerns with Valve over this podcast, like for years, I would say. But like at the same time, it means that I have very real reservations about contributing either financially or with my data to any more of their products than I currently use. And, you know, like there are just so many different facets to this that I'm not comfy with without a lot more information and proof of their commitment to goodwill or to good practice.
And I think it was a really awkward reveal, because they were there like to talk, like as I was saying before, they were there to talk to developers. That is like what that message was. And they knew that you couldn't do that without the news getting out, and therefore they wouldn't be able to control the way that the general public absorb the news about what it is. But at the same time, they were not, you know, there isn't any of that information, and no answers to those kinds of questions that are, you know, while in sort of some PR campaign, it's good to keep people guessing, and now they'll be more interested for when that news does come out and blah, 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 and they'll get lots of attention. You know, this is too big, as you said, for there to be questions, because it feels too important, because it feels that this could be very affecting for what games are, you know, and how people play games. I think it you know, the decisions that Google presumably has made, and maybe some that it is yet to make, could well totally change what the form of games. If it's a pay per minute kind of biz model, like what happens to short form games? Like they don't exist anymore. You know, why would you ever make that kind of game? You know, and anyone making this kind of games isn't able to make games anymore. You know, and blah, 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 blah.
Conversation has like been going on for ages though, because things like the 2-hour refund policy on Steam, it's like...
Oh, sure, but you still have a number of people who kind of like, I value that kind of game. I'm going to buy that kind of game. Obviously, I'm not going to pay, you know, give it back kind of game. In this case, you literally, as a player, cannot give them any money, because unless you leave it running overnight, you know, and so
but that would obviously then depend on how they acquire games, you know, because if it's the case that they have a license, as in that Google have the license to distribute stuff and they pay a flat rate for stuff, then that's obviously a different thing than using a Spotify kind of per listen kind of thing. Like and just to sort of run through a few other things that had popped into my mind, like over the last few days, like there's other things like, you know, modding and hacking, because like I think they were presenting that as a positive, that you know, you wouldn't be able to cheat or whatever, but it's like, that's not the only reason that people want to mess around with game files. Like I do it for free camera access, for like taking pictures, and I do it for, you know, for modding things, and I do it, you know, like, so are they going to have a modding scene at all? And also, like, if they're the people who decide which games are on their service, like, who's archiving them? Like, who keeps them? Who decides what's available when, or when it's not worthy to have a server for a thing anymore, or, you know, all of those questions. And I just, like, I think it's healthy for there to be competition out there. It's healthy to try particular things. And I also want to make it clear that I don't think that individual people at Google are doing this in bad faith. I'm saying that the way that businesses are structured and business law and international law mean that it pushes behavior in a certain direction, and also that the way that algorithms work and who programs them and how they're tested and things, like, also lead to sort of unconscious biases and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So it's not that I think that the people creating this are doing it to do badly. It's just that I've watched all of these decisions that were sort of made either in good faith or for the good of the business, like Google as an entity in and of itself, have had all of these unexpected or unpleasant or downright shitty, like, knock-ons on people, and particular, like, groups of people that mean that when Google announced something like this and there's very little concrete information, that's why I default to this, what about this, what about this, what about that, because it's so important to me that people have those conversations while it feels like the stuff is still being hammered out, like, rather than... Yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, I know. I kind of like thinking, well, that's futile.
But if they're at GDC talking to people and they haven't maybe announced a business plan because they don't know who would be on their service at launch, for example, like, maybe it's time when those people can actually ask those questions or say, why would we want to be on that service? Or
Eve's in, so we should ask him to put these forward.
He's got other things to do, you said. He'll be at a Best Buy. Like, a GameStop. Like, stop
It's
there.
also worth remembering that, like, because I agree. It's worth being afraid of the scenario where Google gets into a bigger monopoly via this, and in doing so sort of gobbles up an industry. For all the reasons stated.
Antitrust.
Yeah, exactly. However, recent history proves that no tech company, no matter how kind of world conquering they appear, is too big to get it a bit wrong or get games wrong specifically. And I would draw attention to Google Plus, which is going away soon. There was a point in time where Google are doing a Facebook. Good God, they'll own everything. Then they didn't. So what I'm saying is sometimes things look like they happen.
It'll sort itself out.
Yeah. What I'm saying... No,
then we were left just with Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Right. Like, sometimes what I'm saying is the megaliths bounce off each other, I guess is what I'm saying. And we get crushed.
I think that this stuff is far more important than the lag stuff, which I think, you know, like, speaking for myself, I really hope this doesn't take off, because I don't want, for all the reasons you were talking about, I don't want to use this Surface at all. I really don't. I don't want it to take off because I don't want to be forced to. And I personally find the lag horrible. I hate it. And any game I've streamed feels mushy and disgusting to do. But I also appreciate that those broader audiences don't give a shit. And that's totally fine. That, you know, that's...
Or there are games where that isn't, like, the point of it. Or,
like, action games do not fare well, you know, and I'm sure there are ways of mitigating it in the way that online games, you know, already do mitigate the lag. But
something like, I don't know if this has been talked about at all, because I wasn't following all of the conversation since people started doing hands-on and stuff, but did they make any sort of statements about how mobile gaming related to any of this? Like,
everything works on a phone, right?
Yeah. No, but mobile itself, like the Android store, or like, you know, Candy Crush or something, is that like a... Like,
they definitely presented it in terms of high end.
Does anything go the other direction?
I mean, they were definitely anxious to put one kind of use case forward, which is very nice graphics games. You know.
For sure. It's just, it felt like there's this huge community that plays games, and that maybe, like, I would actually be quite interested in whether Google wanted to create, like, streaming communities around, you know, casual games, or, you know, that kind of stuff. That's genuinely interesting to me, because that's more of a kind of an audience that
But it's about processing, though, isn't it? Like you literally don't need that on any
kind
phone.
of like as in. But the reason that it's called Stadia is because they wanted to be one venue for all of gaming culture, which, I mean, let's leave that aside as a massive fucking turn off for me at all anyway. Sure. But like, you know, there are these other swaths of gaming that exist that didn't actually get a mention. And I'm kind of like, how do you factor those in, or are they still siloed off, right?
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, so the impression I got, and I may be misinterpreting it, but like, there's no participatory or community element by default. It is just beam footage to phone, whatever that is. The community building side of it comes from specifically the influencer kind of link.
Yeah.
Right?
And that would just be a biz kind of setup thing. Right. It's not really about community by the looks of it.
Yeah. I think, I mean, like, you know, it certainly technologically could deliver better phone Fortnite simply by not having a single, essentially functionally single client.
But you will never want to play it anywhere else but your home because
I'm saying that I'm using the use case
play it on the London Underground internet.
Well, what I'm saying is that people do, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like better, I don't mean perfect. I mean better than running the current game client over a 3G connection, is almost certainly going to be, you know, beaming, I don't know, 480p streaming video of a shared server where everyone's connected to the same thing. So the actual in-game, latency isn't an issue. It's only the video connection to the feed that's badly explained because of a couple of sips of whiskey, but nonetheless, that would probably be like a net increase overall. And it also means there's a sort of potentially exponential increase in the complexity of the simulation element of a multiplayer game. Yeah. That's kind of cool. That is true of the cloud generally, and I wouldn't be surprised if more devs weren't experimenting with that. But, other than that, practical benefit, like, but that
there was one other thing actually I did think was cool, which was the idea that you know, because it's just video and their servers, you know, their data centers are zipped out around, you can see what your friends are seeing, or you can see alternative views of the game world, you know, sort of like running concurrently, you know, and that potentially some really interesting game ideas might come out of that.
Do you think that also the fact that they're pitching it as, you can see how you could get, you know, basically that you get walkthrough access, like you get hints and walkthroughs at the touch of a button kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
Do you think that will like mean that like game facts like suddenly like falls into the abyss, or that guides writer is no longer a job?
That's okay though, because it's going to be free labor that actually creates all that stuff, though, isn't it? Like, they're not going to pay for it, are they?
Well, I mean, or is it going to be the devs that have to submit that as part of a build?
Yeah, maybe.
Or, like, I'd be interested to see whether what you two think or predict on this front. Like, do you think that Google is also going to become a storefront for games? Or do you think that it's going to, like, require your Steam sign-in, your Epic Store sign-in, your itch details?
They'll want it as streamlined as possible, and obviously they'll want the cut, so that'll be the store.
But, like, so then you think that you'll have to rebuy games or rebuy access, or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, almost certainly. Totally, I couldn't imagine it working a different way.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I could imagine them saying, could we get your Steam login? And like, cause as a goodwill thing to start with, to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
but then Steam might kind of say, hold on now.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, in fact,
I don't know what your legal ownership of a Steam game is, whether your agreement is with Steam,
I
and
believe
therefore
you're just leasing it, aren't you? And that you can't
give
your account to anyone. But
Steam, or do you live, or from the publisher?
Basically you get a license, and I don't know who that license is with, because obviously you need the Steam platform to boot the thing. So maybe it's like, so I would need to go through the EULA for that. But, like, I know that obviously your account is non-transferable, because hence, like, the quibbles around people's wills or around, you know, all of that stuff. But that said, Epic has been, doing things like importing people's Steam lists, friends lists and stuff. And there's currently a kerfuffle about that because Steam are like, wait, what? And, they're investigating what they're doing with the data, and Epic have sort of been in trouble because apparently what it does is it creates a local copy of a particular file and only accesses it if you say yes, but it's still doing that. And it's also, they're not 100% sure, as in users aren't 100% sure what data is like kept within that. And so that grey area is obviously being explored at the moment, but it made me aware of like, oh, it doesn't necessarily have to be that Steam are okay with this, as long as because with what's the, like Dota buff or stuff, you give it your Steam details so that it can get your account, right? And there's other
Ish. It goes out through the Dota API, which is provided by Valve.
There's something else then, because there are other things where you give them, like it says, like, can we log into your to your Steam account?
there are things you used to be able to do in terms of sharing certain aspects of your profile that you had to log in order to give access to a certain part of the API.
It might not be that, but like, can you guys remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it is that, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It still works as part of the Steam API.
Wanting me to authorize them to use my Steam account or to whatever.
Well,
I know that certainly in the past you'd be able to see everything that people have played, and I can imagine as a sweetener for to encourage new users, Google doing some incredible deal making, because just sticking its weight around with major publishers and saying to people, sign in with your Steam account and you will instantly have games from these publishers on your Google account.
Or like verify your login and we'll check which games you own kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, but, cause the thing that I've been thinking about is because Epic have obviously like approached the problem by throwing money at it essentially, and like, leveraging the, Unreal side of things, I guess. But like, and I'm not fully caught up with whatever they chatted on about at their press conference, but it was one of those things where it's like, I was talking about this in the office the other day, and it was a bit kind of, it's that thing where, to me, the problem I have with the Epic Store is that they haven't explained how any of this is of benefit to me. It's just that some of their games are exclusive to them now, and I have to use the store if I want to play them. Like, I'm not using it because it's doing anything particularly good or it's benefiting a particular thing. Like the increased cut for developers is nice, but it's, like they haven't positioned it as anything other than this benefits us. And so I think that has automatically set people against like using things that aren't Steam, even though Steam has its own problems.
Yeah, because it's weird. All that discussion is sort of slightly alien to me, because I don't like using Steam very much, and I've felt kind of railroaded into doing all of it. And as soon as another one comes along, so well, there's another devil then, sort of it's just the same
Phil
problem.
and Sam and I were talking about this, and it's like, at least with Uplay and Origin and stuff, like they're annoying, or I find them annoying, but at least you know why they exist, like, because those are the publishers and those are their platforms and their games are on them and stuff. But Epic kind of haven't really, to me, made a case for how they are, like, why do I go to them apart from exclusive,
a Christmas card from Cliffy B. That's what it is apparently this year.
I went there to get Slime Rancher, a game I already own on Steam.
Good.
But like, it was
for free, so why not?
Free for a couple of weeks. So I was like, well, in case I do end up on this platform, I guess I'll get this. Yeah. And I have Subnautica Below Zero, because that was what the preview code that I had, the platform that
I
was
got Subnautica when it was on. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, fine, but I think, interestingly, the way that Epic have handled things has maybe not poisoned the well, really, but like it has changed that relationship.
Raised hackles.
And I don't know whether Google will have to also contend with that, like, pushback for themselves, or whether that will have changed how they want to work this, or I don't know. It's all a bit of a question mark, isn't it?
It is. It'll be really interesting to see how it gets resolved. I think it's because
PC gaming is dead. That is what we know now.
Yeah.
It's been dead for ages.
It's a big cloud now.
It's dust.
Big cloud. It's just, yeah. But because that sort of, you can, yeah, I mean, the presentation was extremely,
I just got your joke. I'm so sorry.
The presentation was obviously a big marketing show, but not particularly to developers. It felt very much, because it didn't feel particularly for developers in the same way it didn't really feel for players either, because, and it is in the absence of a piece of information that you've identified, which is how people buy game, how I get paid for my game, how you pay for my game. Well, these are two sides of the same question. It's, ultimately in video games you have developer take money from player in return for fun computer game, and that is the basis of the industry. And that fundamental interaction and how it works, was not elucidated in any meaningful way, because I do understand, a famous YouTuber plays the game, his viewers like it, or her viewers like it, they click a button and now they're playing it. Great. Me as developer, when do I get to eat? And similarly, and also player, oh, I like this game, click, £50. Oh, there's a barrier that transcends technology. You know what I mean? So just the absence of that makes it feel very kind of woolly to me, like a big fluffy cloud. And, there's the sort of everything else is almost secondary to the answer to that question, because it either introduces a layer of friction that people are going to be very familiar with, and then introduces all the same problems that any other store competitor faces. Do you undercut? Do you stick your guns and offer something else? I don't know. Or it's some other kind of, huge deal, like, Google owning the licenses to certain games for a certain period of time, and you can play them for that period, Netflix style, because guess what? We've got the license to Assassin's Creed, say, because that's the game they're using to demo it. Play the new Assassin's Creed through Google, maybe in return for a monthly subscription. Maybe not. Maybe just in return for your data, your precious Assassin's Creed data about when, where and how.
Turned around in circles.
It'll be like getting a bus when you get a bus and your phone pops up Google Maps to say, how crowded was this bus? It pops up to say, how much did you enjoy this Assassin's Creed mission?
Oh God, that's going to definitely happen.
It is definitely going to happen.
Oh God.
Because they basically tried that with Assassin's Creed Unity, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, that one I think. Rate the mission. How do you like this? Do you like this? Yeah, no, that's going to happen. I started saying it as a joke and I couldn't find...
How's my pyramid?
Yeah. Rate my pyramid.
Upside down.
Yeah.
Rate that
Butt
ass.
up.
Yeah.
Butt's right up in the air.
Yeah. Cap down, ass up. That's the way we like to pharaoh.
Oh God. Yeah, I don't, I'm also interested in how it impacts things like Amazon as well, because I feel like,
Oh, poor
but they've got their gaming
Poor Jeffy.
stuff that they've vaguely been like working on that I keep sort of.
Oh, well, yeah, Lumberyard and,
Who even,
and its studios.
As in, yeah.
But, so I'm kind of interested whether they thought they were like in a big tech, position.
Maybe they'll kill each other accidentally.
Maybe, yeah.
And we can all just
deathmatch kind of thing.
dance among the remains.
But I will say,
That's Horizon Zero Dawn, isn't it?
Yeah. But my Gmail won't work anymore. Oh shit.
I will say that this is the most that I have heard anyone speak about Stadia since that thing, though. Like, it doesn't feel like it has caught anyone's
really. Okay,
attention
I'm not really on the
or imagination. Like, I haven't. Like, I saw the general like tech savvy-ish element of Twitter that I follow, treating it like any E3 conference, in that they were like talking about it while it was happening, or, making snarky or excited observations or whatever, or predictions, and then nothing since. I have not heard anybody.
I think that's what Google wants. I think that's ideal for Google, because I think that the financial community knows about it, because Nintendo and Sony's stock dropped by 5% after the announcement, because investors are fucking stupid. So there's that. Like, it is making a splash in the higher circles.
Nintendo is not fun anymore because there's another version.
Mario
of
is 5% shitter.
But then they announced Crypt of the Necrodancer Zelda version.
Yeah, they went, we loved our Nintendo.
Went back up again, as it deserved to.
Yeah. What a review. That was really cool. But, I think, like I was saying before, I think that they want to pique interests. They're going to have a lot of meetings where they will explain the business model at GDC, and they don't want people to put too much conjecture into it right now, because then when they do announce the important shit.
I think I just want to make sure that everyone has as little enthusiasm for the future as possible. Because it might be bad.
Well, it might be, but sometimes game is nice.
But game can be nice somewhere else. I don't know.
I'm just, I appreciate we've been talking about Stadia for 40 minutes.
I want to be like Treguard from Nightmare. Caution, team! A reference no one outside the UK or anyone under the age of 30 will get.
I barely get it.
Oh.
I'm 31. Let's return to, well, certainly my comfort zone.
Okay,
which is the hot and spicy computer games of now. Oh. Alex, what have you been playing?
I've been playing something really up to the minute. I've been playing Call of Duty 4.
Do you mean Black Ops 4?
Call of Duty 4, what's the subtitle?
Modern Warfare.
Modern
Warfare, yeah.
Why?
Hey, well, it was free on my PlayStation a while ago, and I thought, oh shit, I want to play that again, because I played it when it came out, and then never since.
So not a PC game?
It's on the PC. Just because I use a pad, Jesus. Tom Francis uses a pad all the time anyway. Christ. Come on. Jesus.
Just no impressing Pip today.
No, I'm actually a really stringent gatekeeper. I'm a core gamer.
Yeah.
So were you no-scoping 360 all the people?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that helps.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I suppose you're not quite a total scrub to me now.
Hey, it's good. Like, that's my take. I was really surprised by how well it holds up. I've just been playing the campaign.
This is the remaster they did, right?
This is the remaster, yeah. Like, so it's kind of very, it's a lot prettier than I was expecting it to be. Like, they really have overhauled it. It's doing my maths. It's over 10 years old, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's 2007.
And it doesn't feel like that.
Because games haven't changed at all.
That is probably the thing. What has changed is that its kind of air and attitude and feel I like it so much better than any of the Call of Duty since. There's a sort of like a urgent sort of documentary sort of aspect to it, which I really like. I think that's maybe bad because it's entertainment with the air of a documentary is kind of worrying.
Like that opening scene where you're given the experience of being driven to your death by an extremely fucking lost Uber driver.
And that fucking lost Uber driver, that is a fucking amazing sequence, like with modern tech, because like it looks fan-fucking-tastic. Like, it really does. And the sheer number of things, roadside things happening that you kind of well, no, they're the people being shot on the street as you drive past, and you're kind of craning your neck to see them. Yeah, and helicopters screaming overhead. Like, the density of things, and this goes for the levels themselves, especially in the Middle Eastern levels. The levels feel a lot wider than I remember them. There's a lot more choice, it feels like, than I remember.
They're actually less corridor-y.
Yeah, they're very, they're kind of wide corridors.
They've really refined the corridor over the years, have they not?
But there's some really cool levels in there as well, which I'd forgotten about completely. There's, and I did vaguely remember as I was playing it, but there's one where a tank has broken down. You're in the Middle Eastern setting, and you've got to defend the tank against these waves of attackers.
Is there a school somewhere in that level, or like a really big building that you
big buildings
go into as part of that? Like, you're kind of like trying to
it's quite flowing, but there is definitely a sequence going through a building where you're going in and out of rooms.
Yeah, like I feel like I really remember that. That seems to have apparently stuck with me.
Well, it does a really good job of kind of making your experience flow through it, even though it's actually quite distinct levels. But this, the tank one, you're defending against these, waves, and you'd been on a journey to that point. You know, you've played it through being dropped off in the city, kind of hitting the ground, doing stuff, running through schools, going through rooms, and then you end up at the tank. And like the change of pace is really good. Like now you're defending and you're in one place. And you know, the feel of it completely changes. And I think then it goes to an SAS level and then it comes back to the tank, and now the tank's been fixed because you defended it while it was being fixed, and you're back in that space again. And that was a surprisingly powerful, feeling of like a continuity. Was something that a lot of games don't really bother to do. Like games now know that you're usually in an open world or a world which doesn't have loading sequences, and therefore the sense of continuity is meant to come from this. In this one, that continuity had to be designed. Like, okay, we're going to have this scenario, we're going to design the level like this. Now we're going to have another level which repeats that thing, but now you're doing this in it. And I really felt very fresh, very interesting, and kind of, and I liked the relatively small scale of these things as well. You're defending a tank. In any subsequent Call of Duty, a tank wasn't enough. Like, you want 15 tanks all blowing up all at the same time. You want 800 sort of airplanes kind of falling on your head. Like, it is that kind of scale of level design that it seems to feel that was necessary. But in this one, it's just you and a squad. If
memory serves, I feel like that game had a far more manageable inventory as well, like as in your weaponry and things. Like modern, current Call of Duty games, like I don't understand how many different grenades I have, how many different like electro pulse things and summonable
and all the different
like drones
scopes and whatnots and tools.
And so I actually just find myself confused from the get-go, whereas the older Call of Duty games, like even going back before Modern Warfare, like there's something that is just so they feel human-sized, they feel manageable, they feel like things that you can get your head and your hands around. And maybe that's just because I'm bloody old.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, it doesn't have an excitement around guns in the current ones do. Like, obviously they do have names that appear when you hover over them, but usually you're just picking them up hurriedly because you run out of ammo. You know, it's not, you're not really thinking about it. It's just, you just take the gun to hand.
I'm trying to figure out like how it felt at the time, because I feel like certainly from that point onwards, it has always felt very fetishy around weaponry and around like military tech in general. But like, it's that weird thing of, with the level that it's at now, looking back at that stuff feels so nostalgic. It's like, oh, it's as if there's no brand names or, you know, whatever else. It's like looking at a time before. I don't know. It's weird. But that's that Modern Warfare's the one with no Russian, right? Like that level?
No, that's, Black Ops.
Modern Warfare 2.
Modern Warfare 2.
I couldn't remember because I was kind of like, I think that and the smugness around that level kind of overrode most of my memories of Call of Duty games up until that point. So levels that you're talking about sound familiar, but everything from Modern Warfare 2, from like pretty much everything around that era of Call of Duty, that sort of, I guess, 5-year period around that, is absolutely dwarfed by how smug and how, oh, well, you didn't have to kill everybody. The rhetoric around that was. And so it kind of, I think it ended up tainting like the whole franchise in some ways, even though different studios, even though different, you know, cadences and types of story.
Well, it fed the sense that it had to one up itself over and over and over and over and over again.
And also that it thought that it was making all of or that they wanted you to think that it was making these smart commentaries and you actually didn't have to engage if you didn't want to.
I mean, this stuff but this stuff is definitely in Modern Warfare because it has the C-130 level where you are in the, using the sort of gun cam, and it's just, obviously it's just a turret level, but the dressing on it is so extraordinarily kind of specific and redolent, and you've got someone in your ear shouting good kill as you've wiped out some people running across a field and you have no idea whether they're enemies or not, and playing it now, like, it's still a thing, but actually the cool experience was the fact that the way that it leads into that is that you're the people on the ground and you watch this thing make a strike in front of you, taking out a group of people that were about to overpower you. And so, the power of this thing, you've experienced it on the ground, and then you're able to apply that experience to what is going on when you're in the plane. And like that, it's that the subtler things really really sort of starting to really stand out to me now. And obviously it's the lower key stuff that makes it special for me than far more so than the the big stuff, like the fact that at some point soon I'm going to get blown up in a nuclear explosion and stuff.
Nuclear mishap.
Little misunderstanding.
A nuclear nuisance.
But yeah, that's interesting. Like off the back of you talking about it, I do feel like I want to play it again, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Oh, it's really good at like individual moments as well. Like there's a sweet bit where you're the SAS and it's at night and you're going to get extracted, but then the helicopter is shot down and you crash, and then all the bad guys are after you, and you've run into a basement, and there are these ground level windows that are high up on these basement walls, and the soldiers are shining lights through them, and it's remarkably effective, like the feeling pinned down and surrounded, and just the visual punch of having shafts of light kind of coming through. Nighttime stuff, having to put your night vision stuff on as you go into a building at night in the Middle East sequence. It does good movie, like effective movie stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of sort of formative first person storytelling through scripted sequence stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely the post Half-Life scripted sequence game, I think.
And I read this account of how some of them was designed. Some of the levels were designed. So one of the big ones would be the sniping mission, which is the name I've forgotten, but it's quite a famous one.
Is all gillied up? No,
that's it. Gillied up. Yeah, all gillied up, and it's like apparently it's a forest of triggers. It's just trigger points, which are controlling the AI. The AI in it is so rudimentary. They had to basically hardwire through this horrific kind of spaghetti of trigger points to make it feel like if it was responding to you. And, you feel like looking at it and playing it today, you can almost feel like just how mechanically kind of straining it is to kind of actually function correctly, and quite frequently it has all that weird COD stuff of where like the restart is in the middle of something and but yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been fun. And that is what I did plays.
Thank you, Alex.
Have you done play?
What I done play? So I wanted to go back to, so what I've really done is finish Devil May Cry, and I appreciate I banged on about Devil May Cry last time, so I'm not going to bang on it again.
The clock is ticking.
I told you, give me a minute, 3 minutes and then cut me off. What I will say, I finished it now, and I sort of slightly warmed to it. There's a lot of things I really I'm baffled by about its choices, in presentation and narrative wise, but it is a bit like being told the plot of a cartoon by a cool toddler who might be making, and you don't know how precocious the toddler is, maybe they're making the cartoon up, maybe they're just misremembering part of it, and they're kind of ironing over elements of it. But nonetheless, you're impressed, because it's a cool toddler. In fact, with one exception, which is sort of frustratingly right at the end, like the final scene of the game, there's a bit of writing that genuinely made me laugh. It's a good bit if it's well acted, It's a nice moment between two characters. It's genuinely funny. And it gets there towards the end. And I think actually in the core of the story they ended up telling, there is actually something that could have been done way better than it actually is. So it's a bit of a shame. It doesn't feel like it escalates because it's constantly going backwards and forwards in time. I think escalation is such a big part of these games that bit of a missed opportunity. However, there's a big X factor here, that, I hadn't gotten to when we spoke about it last week. It's very important, and it's one of Dante's ranged weapons. When you start playing as Dante, he has 4 ranged weapons, ultimately 4 ranged weapons and 4 melee weapons. Standout weapon last time when I spoke to you was the motorbike that he splits in half and uses as 2 big axes, because that's how a motorbike works. The standout weapon is called Dr. Faust. It's a hat.
Yes, I've heard about this.
It's very good.
Tom waxed lyrical about it in his review.
Yeah. So, Mr. Faust, or Dr. Faust, actually, he's done his PhD, is a hat. And
Is this what the devil done to him?
No, he's just a hat. It's based on an enemy from Devil May Cry 4, but which wore a hat. Now it's just a hat with a scarf.
He made a deal with the devil for his hat.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, I think it's like what it is. It's like this big, like, sort of bluesman's cowboy hat that you wear with a scarf. And it is kind of like deal with the devil at the crossroads. The idea is you spend your blood points, which are your blood orbs, your red orbs, which you use for upgrade currency. You spend them to fire blood from your scarf. Your scarf gets longer the more you have, like in Journey, for some reason.
It's like Tom Baker's Doctor Who.
It is like Tom Baker's Doctor Who, but...
I know he's the Doctor, don't at me.
Yeah, Tom Baker's Dr. Faust. But the best thing about it, the single best thing, and this possibly redeems the entire game, and it's basically the reason that I was like, maybe I finished it, maybe I probably won't play it again, maybe I'll trade it in. No. Straight on the I'm going to play this forever pile, is because the thing you do with the hat, so you can spend, your currency basically to fire it. You can also, perform the move called Set Hat. It's just called Set Hat. And this is a target an enemy forward on the, stick and the shoot button. And, this makes you throw the hat at an enemy or group of enemies. Now they're wearing the hat. And for as long as they are wearing the hat, when you hit them, you get more points. Which is a great mechanic because it encourages you to remember to put the hat on people before you unleash a combo. And obviously a lot of playing Dante.
You do this to get lots of blood points and then you spend lots of blood points.
Or you just get loads of blood points out of it. So you go farming because you want to upgrade any of the characters, and you do this by running around hatting people. And they have made sure that every enemy in the game, no matter what it is, can wear the hat. All of the bosses can wear the hat. And sometimes the hat gets bigger or smaller to fit the enemy, but they have made this consistent for every enemy in the game. And that is the kind of dedication to a stupid idea. Because it could have been it could have been a bow, and it could have marked your opponent with some kind of tag or something.
Thing hanging above their head.
There's a demonic icon above them or something. There's they all have to wear the hat. And you can set a hat multiple times because you're still wearing the hat. You just create more hats. And now we're all wearing hats.
Because I was thinking, how do you put one hat on a group of enemies?
Well, you just keep throwing it, and now everyone's got a hat.
Hats.
There's a caveat, which is if you get hit by a hatted enemy, you also lose blood points.
Okay.
So it's a big old gambling mechanic, and it works really well because, you've got to mix it up. You don't necessarily want the hat out all the time. You might want to throw the hat onto somebody, then switch to the shotgun, with the ice nunchucks or something. I don't know. It's great. It's really good. And also, I just wanted to give a shout out.
Your time is up.
Okay. Fine.
No.
Fine.
No.
Well, the other thing is I just wanted to give a shout out for them doing basically the most pointless multiplayer mode I've ever seen.
Yeah, you get to visit other people. You're just there.
No, right. Some missions are linked missions. And this is, I think, the reason the story goes backwards and forwards in time. So, this is not really a spoiler. At the beginning of the game, the prologue, you get to a certain point with Nero. And as you get to a boss fight, Dante is busy losing that boss fight, and then you step in and stuff happens. Later on in the game, like halfway through the game, you'll then do the first part of that mission as Dante, and then that boss fight is a forced fail, or is it, etc., etc., etc. And so that mission as Dante ends when you get kind of knocked out, and by that point that, I'm about to come in as Nero and do something else. That's all fine, except I didn't realize this, obviously, the first time I played the game. And I don't know why they have done this. This is one of its linked missions, which means that because the action is taking place 2 different places at a time, it finds someone else who's doing the other version of this mission.
Right.
And then the only way this manifests, so if you are playing Dante in that scenario, in the middle of the game, you never see Nero. At all. Ever. Because Dante has lost the fight by the time Nero arrives. If you're playing Nero, the game literally does this one thing where you get to like, the boss fight is happening between huge closed doors, but there's a tiny gap in them. And you get to like the hill nearby, and the camera swings through the gap, and you see exactly a second of whatever's happening in there with a real player fighting the boss battle. I did this a bunch of times today because this is a secret thing you can get off the back of it. Not today, yesterday. And they have the netcode is there. They have done it so that you just see through the door and like you see like 2 seconds of someone jumping and like doing half a combo. And then at the end of the mission, it says, "Did you think they were stylish?" And I was like, I saw them for 2 seconds and I don't know why.
Imagine if this was Stadia's soft launch.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Shit.
2 seconds.
Maybe that's
Incredible.
it. Maybe that's it.
It was,
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's, I genuinely don't know what it adds. But they done it.
You're talking about it. Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, checkmate.
So the only thing that I can imagine might have made this even better, the hat thing, is if it manifested on enemies as a cone of shame. Like, that would have just been a beautiful, beautiful thing to behold.
It kind of is in a way. Like, you can throw it at some enemies and they don't look happy to be wearing the hat. Because you often take away a lot of their mystique because you have made them wear the hat. So like there's a lot of like devilish lizards of various kinds.
I'd like to see what the scissor ghosts think about it.
Scissor ghosts love wearing the hat. It's very good. Like every time you have ruined all of their brand, right?
Yeah.
Like in the moment that you've thrown the hat at them.
It's like, you're a fucking edgelord, now wear this pom-pom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, except it's quite an edgy hat. Well, it would be, it's an edgy hat on Dante because he's an edgy boy. There's a really unfortunate thing they do. When he gets given the hat, he looks at it. He gets given the hat by a legendary gunsmith.
Why?
Who says, "I made you this."
Why does the gunsmith have a hat? Shouldn't he be a milliner?
These are extremely, these are extremely base level Devil May Cry questions. It gets so much weirder than this. He then takes the hat. And so Dante always does like some kind of dance when he gets a new weapon.
Right.
And it takes a long time.
What kind of like?
Well, so this is pretty much Devil May Cry like tradition, I think. That you get a new weapon and there's a lot of like hoo-ha doing like a dance, and there's lots of different. It's a very Capcom thing. It's like
showing off the weapon.
Yeah, there's like doing lots of moves with it and stuff, and like it's very Beautiful Joe. If you ever played that, there's an element of like this is a very Capcom thing more than anything else.
Well, there was like when Bayonetta got a new foot thing. Like a new stiletto thing, and would like lie around and roam.
Well, exactly. And Bayonetta is very much a response to Devil May Cry, so it's it's like I
was just trying to pick.
Yeah, and it's similar to the incidental animations in Monster Hunter as well. Like this is a Capcom thing. The kind of like. I don't know.
Admiring my new thing.
Admiring my new thing dance, which actually I think is quite laudable. And actually, the hat one would be brilliant if it wasn't made profoundly awkward. And obviously, this is just a moment in time where this was made. And I think at the time in Taste and now in Taste, which is he does a quite extended Michael Jackson routine.
I thought I remembered this because didn't loads of people
and
gif
it's not,
it?
And it's not a, I don't know, sort of unspecific 80s dance man routine. It's a full.
He does like the hip thrust from Bad, doesn't he?
And then the moonwalk, yeah. And shit, it's just an oh Christ kind of.
Oh
fuck.
Dante. Well, maybe it's actually fitting. Fuck it.
Like, yeah, it's just, but it's in the game. And then from then on you gain the power to set hat. And honestly, I will check in at the end of this year. If there is a better game, verb, noun in games this year than set hat, I will eat my
set hat.
Set hat.
Indeed.
That was good 3 minutes. Well
Thanks.
done.
That's the longest 3 minutes of my life.
Shall we do questions? Oh, sorry.
You waited till I was drinking.
Yes, I did.
Good job, Pip.
Well, I I thought, oh, he's drinking, but then I thought, how long can a sip really take?
Well, there's a post-sip.
So I thought I said it quite slowly. Shall we do questions?
Shall we do questions?
And then there you were, still guzzling.
Sipping on the nice whiskey. Our first question, the answer is yes, incidentally.
What? Oh.
Your question.
Oh, okay.
Remember the question?
Well, because in my head, when you'd said sipping on, and then my mind had gone gin and juice, laid back. And then you said yes. And I was like, okay, cool. Good for you.
Great. I'm glad we talked. Our first question comes from Matt, who writes, Dear Straight and Samba, back in the 1990s, I spent many hours playing the Settlers co-op with my brother on the Amiga. It featured dual mouse support and split screen play, making it the most technically advanced game ever, apparently. This is reference to Henrik's email from last week, bemoaning the lack of the ability to plug in two mice and waggle both of them around, click in any which way. We also spent a long time taking it in turns to try and beat Ruby Weapon in Final Fantasy VII. What is your most nostalgic same room multiplayer memory? See ya, Matt.
Ultima Underworld 2 with my friend Dave over some school holiday. Gathered around my mum's 486 and it was fucking great. Like figuring out how to go up a goblin tower and all that sort of thing. And like Dave isn't or wasn't at that point particularly into games. Then he worked as a developer. He worked at Elixir Studios, in fact, and then got out of games. But he was never sort of like massively into games, like not in the way that I kind of like, I gotta play a game, I want to play a game.
Maybe that's what working in the games industry.
Yeah. Well, this is before then, and he wasn't really like, but then this was something that kind of like, it captured him as much as me, and that was a nice time.
I remember playing, Simon the Sorcerer with my brother and sister gathered around the family computer in the hallway. And I remember it as being a lot nicer than I think it was. It probably involved a lot of being annoyed with each other, pushing each other out of the way, saying, yeah, but you've had your 10 minutes in control, you know. There was probably a lot of that. But in my head, it's like, oh, weren't we so nice? We collaborated. We got most of the way through that game and then phoned the helpline. But yeah, I remember that as being nice, so don't tell me differently. Chris?
I've got a couple of these. So I think I played a lot of Monkey Island with my friend Richard when I was about 8 around his house. That was good. Played through Monkey Island 1 and 2, I think. Played a lot of Monkey Island 3 with my sister. I think I might have told the story on the podcast before, but the highlight of co-op games with my sister was Neverwinter Nights. Where I got as far as, was it Baldur's Gate 2? No, it's Neverwinter Nights, I think. We got as far as Luskan in that game, which is, I think, it's the second city, that you go to. I might be misremembering. And I remember being really far into it and I hadn't saved for ages, or we hadn't saved for ages. And then something, obviously, people who've listened to everything the podcast has done will have, encountered my sister, both on Little Grey Cells at one point and, the Star Wars podcast we did. And, at some point, something in Becky's head just went off that said, you know, fuck the police. And she just pressed the big picture of a moon on my keyboard. And that's the one that puts the PC to sleep. And so she basically just switched the PC off. I didn't realize it did this. It was just in like, and it wasn't even like, you know, go to sleep in a kind of gentle modern Windows way where it wakes up and it's remembered everything you're doing. This was basically just off. And
sleeping is off, and sleep is death.
And we lost about 4 hours of progress, and we never played that game ever again. So that was a good one.
Is that really a fond memory?
It's one of my most profound memories of sat around a keyboard with someone else. Partly just because the moment where there was just the sort of the sudden realization of what had happened, and then the follow up of why have you done this? And it was just a sort of momentary fit of like, fuck this, I'm pressing the moon key.
So I feel like it's less fond and more emblematic of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Or deep trauma that you fancy airing.
I think I was probably 14 or something. She would have been 11 or 12. So it's just like, beep, F this. Next writes Cheese Abuser. who also writes in to tell us about Settlers. They write, hi, cabaret cocktails and cactus kickers. I've been with you guys since episode 3, and it's finally my moment to shine. Regarding last week's question from Henrik, dual mouse input was a thing in the Settlers too, and this enabled local multiplayer with split screen. Not only did this require me to go buy another mouse, expensive at the time, but I also needed to upgrade my RAM from 8 meg to 24 meg in order for the game to actually start with 2 mice plugged in. It was sluggish at the best of times. Me and my brother did not have a good time.
So it was always a bad idea all along.
A huge waste of time. A huge waste of everybody's time. Question. What in-game object or character would you actually consider to be cool enough to own in plushie form? I'm still searching for the perfect gift for my soon-to-be newlywed game of friends. And that's from Cheese Abuser.
I actually own a few game plushies. Some...
It's because you're a core gamer.
Yeah. I don't think I've bought any of them for myself, though. They're gifts from this one, from Chris, because he used to go to, like, sometimes we would both be at the same esports events, but if he was going to one that I wasn't, he would often, like, bring me whatever plush, courier they had for Dota or something. So I have, like, the red panda from that, and there's
a bunch of Animal Crossing characters around as well.
Well, yeah, they're so nice. They're from your recent trip to New York, but that wasn't, like, that's not a work-related thing.
No, that was to see my sister.
So I've got a little Isabel and a KK Slider DJing, and they're adorable. So they are, I think they're my favourites, I would say, but partly because you know how much I love Isabel, and you are so partial to KK Slider. Like,
the coolest dog in games, I will...
Like, I was showing Chris my house in New Leaf, and went downstairs, and one of the KK Slider songs was playing that I'd put on the little jukebox, and he made me show him all of the songs, all of the KK Slider songs.
It's a good musical dog.
And we listened to them all.
He is a profound multi-instrumentalist and multi-genre musician whose contribution, I think, is not yet fully appreciated.
To music and games.
Yeah.
He's a cross-genre superstar in that world.
He's got an adaptability that I associate with very few musicians.
It's very fair.
Yeah. He's literally a prince among dogs.
But I would say... I mean,
KK Slider.
I don't know if the newlywed friends in question that this person's talking about are into Nintendo stuff, but they do some nice plushies if they are. But otherwise, I guess, like, it feels like such a game that is absolutely dependent on whether any exist for the games that they're into, because there aren't
any that are sort of independently good by themselves. Yeah,
there are. If they like Slime Rancher, they've got a few.
Have they? Yeah, that's good.
How about a big plushy WASD? It's game agnostic, instantly recognizable game icon. WASD.
Or a mouse.
Didn't
two
big plushy mice?
Two big mice.
Don't Valve sell like that cube from?
They do,
Portal,
but that's a bit done, isn't it? By now, isn't it? We've all been there, haven't we? All the cake's a lie.
No, but
come on.
Wait.
Potato jokes.
Hear me out. Doesn't it have a heart on for love? For
well, that's trying to get to you.
Oh god, yeah, that's how they get you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not 2000,
cheap shot.
It's not 2006 or whatever anymore.
I'm trying to think of something that you could hand over at a wedding.
Oh, what about one of the sectoids?
A head crab.
A sectoid from XCOM.
XCOM, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they are. Are they the nude ones?
Why not? Why not a little range?
Do you want
Why not?
A sectoid body pillow?
Why not a little range?
See, that's an area we haven't gone into yet. Body pillows.
Well, please don't relate that to the thing I was about to say. But...
Isn't that why you get married? Is because the body pillow isn't working?
Then becomes...
I think there's a hole in the market, right? If you're not going to go for plushy WASD, maybe we could stake out a claim for, like plushies of various, like British game designers, what made it big in the 80s.
Julian Gollop. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Plushie Gollop, Plushie David Braben, Plushie David Braben, Plushie Peter Molyneux, Plushie
Braben. Oh yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Plushie Sean Murray.
Well, No, you take
How big was he in the 80s?
It comes with Plushie Molyneux.
Like, yay high.
You've got, who else could you have? You could have,
Kingsley.
Yeah.
Kingsley! Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
And with a little kind of like
Garriott,
visor that goes
Richard
up and
Garriott.
down. Soft little visor. Garriott.
Yeah, Plushie Garriott.
Yeah, honorary British.
Yeah.
Well, no, Lord British, isn't it?
Lord British,
Yeah, yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Livingston, Steve Livingston.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Ian Livingston, Steve
Jackson,
Jackson.
yeah.
But yeah, they're just like attached.
There you go.
Oh, I really want this.
Let's do it.
All right.
No, because this is one short step away from Funko Pops.
Who
even
fucking
better.
cares? They're rich. They're happy, probably.
Yeah, a little Plushie Chris Roberts, maybe. I don't know. We can have him there.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, my main actual advice is one for a game they like that does plushies.
A plushie Tom Francis.
I think the other great category, if we're going to do real, the
broken window.
If we're going to do the Men of Video Games, a plushie series, I think we also need great, E3 conference,
Oh no.
hosts.
Is that not just put a regular, like,
It's put,
normal looking person in a suit, jacket and jeans?
Yeah.
right. Yeah, to some extent, but
Yeah.
Any of the Muppets from the Nintendo E3 thing from a few years ago, especially
yeah.
the Reggie one.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, they should have released that as a plush. I got your Animal Crossing things
I don't think this has been very helpful.
to anyone.
Well, apart from the makers of possibly the series of game developer plushies that you apparently would
It's like-
immediately
Yeah.
pre-order.
CEO of plushie
Jeff
James
Minter plushie.
Yeah.
Jeff Minter plushie.
with real flowing hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, anyone who could theoretically do a nostalgia-based Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Like,
Or pointedly refuse to do one. Those are the two options.
okay. Let's put together a business proposal.
Good. Yeah, if I'm not at a game show at some point in the next year and one of the random merch stands doesn't have that array upon it, I will be strictly disappointed.
So, wait, to go back to the Settlers 2 point, could this person give their friends 2 mice?
Well, we just suggest that.
Yeah, we have suggested that.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Plushie
wasn't
mice.
listening.
That's okay.
I meant like actual mice so they could play Settlers 2 together.
But they didn't.
the
They
mice
hated it.
can play Settlers 2 with each other.
No,
They hated it.
But
They said that it was the worst experience of their
the
lives.
couple. The
Oh,
couple
I see, the
could
couple.
play.
Why would you wish that on a couple on the
Yeah.
wedding day?
Look, it's symbolic of good ideas.
They have to upgrade their RAM.
and needing
You're
to
causing
adjust
them
your expectations.
to upgrade their RAM. Well, that's some RAM.
Something
It's plushie
borrowed.
RAM.
Oh yeah,
Blue
give them
Bite.
some RAM.
That's a very good joke.
Thank
What
you.
was that?
Nothing, doesn't matter. It's gone now.
Is it something I wouldn't
Lost in the
understand?
winds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you say blue balls? I mean, did you?
No.
Oh.
No.
I said blue bite.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
No, I don't get it, but
Oh, it's dead now.
sorry.
Joseph writes, "Hey CNC, I've recently played a few hours of Objects in Space, an interesting space sim that I think you talked about a little while ago. Indeed I did. One of the things I find interesting for a game from a small company is the Arduino support that it has. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
I think it's Arduino.
Arduino is an open source electronic prototyping platform that in this case lets you build your own cockpit and control your ship using real buttons and switches. Now in reality I'm never going to build my own spaceship cockpit, but it's nice to think that I could. This got me thinking, what is a feature in a game that you've played where you thought, I've no idea why you've done this, but I'm glad you did. Thanks for all the pods, Joseph."
I think is Objects in Space the one that I would have played at Alt Control GDC a few years
Very
ago?
possibly.
Yeah.
It's quite,
Lo-fi.
yeah, you sort of flick screen in your ship.
Yeah,
And you've got
that
a
was
kind of
amazing.
radio and things,
like
yeah.
the craftspersonship of the
Craftsman spaceship.
interface
Yeah.
that they had there. That was amazing. Anyway,
Yeah, that would be really good to have that controller. That'd be fun.
I think on the question front, the one that immediately sprang to mind that a lot of people sort of notice or notice the absence of is like flushing toilets and things in games. It's that, why have you done this? But also, why haven't you done this if they haven't? So,
yeah, I'm trying to think, because I tend to like get very excited about these kinds of things. So I talk about them a lot when it's something I think is pointless, but
I really loved in Tacoma that all of the nail varnishes were different, and they all had the kinds of names that you would get on a nail varnish like range. Like they had pun names, and they were, like they just felt like part of a human designed world, and also a small detail that doesn't usually
normally be just like a clone thing or not
and like
readable.
That game is actually replete with stuff like that. I think I didn't notice it, but someone pointed out that there was like a sex toy in one of the rooms, or there, it's those like I love the little things that make something feel like a human being lived there, rather than, oh, these are the assets you had to work with. And like, I don't know whether I mentioned this before, but things like, in Edith Finch, that is so well, like so many of the rooms are so beautifully designed. And then you look at something like a bookcase that's got like 1 million copies of the same book, and you're like, that ruined it, like in that moment. And
Isn't
you're like,
there, I think there is a game where, like, one of the problems is that you've kind of got to make loads and loads of textures. But I think there is a game that is able to dynamically put like names, book names on the spines, so they're always different. And I don't remember what game it is, but I think that technology should be given to the world for free.
Speed Book.
Yeah.
The sequel to Speed Tree.
The natural end to the trees as well.
But yeah, stuff like that, or like if they've put effort into something. Again, with Tacoma, there's like a crossword that you can actually solve, or like, there's... that game is apparently my go-to for this.
Yeah, pointlessly excellent incidental details. 10 out of 10.
The hummingbirds in Far Cry New Dawn as well. Like, I think the game just uses them to highlight collectible plants, which also, glow intermittently. But, and so if you go near them, you can sort of see and hear 1 or 2 little hummingbirds like flying around, but they are so detailed and so lovely, and like
iridescent
the colours are
and kind of
amazing. So like, and the only, like, I haven't been paying attention. It will surprise you to know. I don't know what's going on in Far Cry New Dawn. I don't know who anyone is. Don't know where I'm going. I don't think I've actually moved more than 20 meters away from my home base. And I don't really know what that's about either. But like and so the only thing that I can think of at the moment without any context is that they are entirely just there to signpost these collectible plants, presumably that I can use for crafting. But they are gorgeous and so just lovely to look at, and to go into camera mode. And
it looked like with your hands, as you were saying, lovely to look at, you wanted to rip one of their heads off.
It's how I express love. I'm only fully engaged and in love with something if I want to wear its skin as a coat, basically.
Fair enough.
Speaking of relationships that are going well, Orpheo writes, "Dear Creighton Crowbar, my girlfriend and I recently played through the excellent Return of the Obra Dinn together. Despite the vast disparity in our respective video game experience, we both loved it. It was a great experience to play through together. Do you happen to know of any other games that might bring similar co-op joy, but that are more like puzzles than needing any traditional video game skills? Love the podcast, Orpheo."
The game that immediately came to my mind was is the Room series, because they're very there's lots of opportunities to discuss things, and whether it's the story stuff or just the puzzles. My mum came to stay with us a few weeks ago, and she's had the Room on her phone for months and months, and she and my daughter just spent 2 days just playing through a couple of them, and really, and like, it was just really nice watching them play together, very different experiences and wishes for games, and that was really nice.
I think also story games where you can discuss like which option you want to take, or which dialogue or which strand of thing or how you want to handle a problem. I'm blanking on particular examples, maybe like
Until Dawn. I really enjoyed Until Dawn with my wife. Like I know
me and Marsh hated it.
It's got real problems. I think it's all about the attitude you go in with, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it has loads of problems, but like, we enjoyed it enormously.
Yeah, I think I felt thoroughly and repeatedly like fobbed off by it, because it really, really doesn't want to do what you want it to do. You know what I mean? You can't really express any will, but it's quite a good ride, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely a ride, not a. It's a horror film, but you get to sort of choose
really. Yeah. But you don't really choose much. It's thin, I think, at the best times, but.
Life is Strange.
Yeah.
The first one I would particularly recommend, because I played it for work, and also because I loved it. And I really enjoyed sitting on the bed as Chris played it when I lived in London. So my PC was in my room and I was sat on the bed and you were playing, and I was sort of watching what you did and talking to you about like why you were doing what you were doing. And that was really interesting. And I think that if I would actually be interested to play season 2 with you, like, and us making those decisions or chatting about what we wanted to do together.
Yeah. The other one I was going to suggest for this would be Her Story. I think it's a good fit for something like this, because it's fundamentally deductive, very low requirement in terms of actual input, but a cool, particularly if you've got the patience to just watch through clips together and talk about what the ramifications might be and make notes and things. I think it could work.
I think that's one that I myself wouldn't be able to, just because I'd lose my train of thought and I'd want to make notes and things, but I can see how with the right people it would work.
Yeah, I played Obra Dinn, obviously that's what the writer was saying, but with my son, that was really, he was really excited about oh my God, look at the next thing, and what does this mean? This could only mean this.
It can only mean crabs.
I was wondering if you wanted to play it together, Chris.
Obra Dinn?
Yeah.
I've already played most of it.
Oh, okay.
But we could.
Because I thought I remembered you saying that you had stalled out with it.
I did stall out, but quite late.
Okay.
Quite late. I've seen all the scenes.
Oh. I'll help.
Okay. I'm very stuck. Our next question comes from Joel, who writes, Dear Crit and Crowbot, as a child of the 80s and 90s, I've seen game technology and artistry advance so that many of my wouldn't it be cool pipe dreams have become reality. Examples that spring to mind are the tactical combat character progression of Shining Force 2 giving way to the deep customization and emergent stories of the Firaxis XCOM series, cruising between planets in Elite Dangerous, and my very specific boyhood fantasy of a World War II multi-position bomber crew simulator fulfilled in B-17-2, the Mighty Eighth. And this is to say nothing of VR. What game wishes have you seen come true as the form have evolved, and what experiences remain tantalizingly out of your grasp? Warmest Antipodean regards, Joel in Adelaide. P.S. I am from America, and usually hold my fork in the right and knife in the left, only switching for difficult cutting, like around bones. I cut as I go, only cutting everything in advance when helping small children. Your results with other Yanks may vary, though. There are some weirdos among us. Joel.
What?
There was a whole fork discussion you missed. You weren't here.
Oh.
It turns out, this is important to know, it turns out that most Americans,
they drive with their fork on the right.
No, they hold the knife and fork in the same hands.
Yeah.
They cut up the food.
Hang on, they hold them in the same.
In the hands that we do, left and right, normally.
Fork,
rather than up and down hands that you may be otherwise pretended to use.
They would cut a piece of food off and then switch the fork to the right hand, pick up the food with it, eat, switch it back to the left hand, cut another piece.
But why?
That is apparently normal, and they think that we're strange for rigidly sticking.
I don't understand.
No. We've talked about this, and so we don't. Yeah.
Right. Well, that changes.
There are more things in heaven and earth than...
What if you're left-handed and American? What happens then? Do you switch to the right, or do you left?
No, you're driven into the sea.
On the right.
As a left-handed person, I can tell you, I imagine no one has ever thought about that for a single second.
Ned Flanders would have done for that glorious week.
If only he were real.
That shot. What was the question?
This is the one
I remember.
Yeah.
I have one thing that gaming hasn't provided me with yet, but I have hopes, and that is that game tech and the resources and the power, the human power it requires to do still mean that, for example, if you look closely enough at the world, often you'll just sort of see maybe blank where you in the real world would see, insects.
It's beetles, isn't it, Pip?
It's insects! Oh my god, where are the tiny
She was meandering
insects?
Around this.
I didn't want to be a cliche.
I don't know, I think it's reasonable. Just beetles.
Yeah.
I want beetles.
Or just more stuff that reveals itself the closer you look at the world. And I totally appreciate why it's not there and why you economize or why you make choices, but I would love
beetles
it.
But everything's about how important it is, right? And beetles are important.
They're important to me, but it's... and they're important in the real world.
You're being apologetic about beetles. You can be forthright about beetles.
They're bigger than Jesus.
I don't want to sound like I'm saying why aren't harassed and overworked and crunching game devs adding extra assets to their
It's okay. Their payoff is you caring about the game, and if it caused them to lose their relationships and not sleep for 15 years.
I think 16 Eves were very happy to make those hummingbirds for you.
Yeah.
What I would love is if every single game that featured birdsong had birds attached to it, and every single game that featured, the noise of crickets to, evoke being outdoors had to actually fucking put crickets in it.
Locatable crickets.
Crickets that I could watch.
I think you're absolutely right. However, I can also definitely imagine the day where, one of the Hauser brothers kicks a door open and says, "Why can't I find these crickets?
Where's the fucking findable crickets?
And where's my plushie
of a cricket?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd buy a plushie of a cricket.
Great, we've settled that then.
Good.
Alex, what have the games failed to do for you, or done for you that you never thought they could do?
I always, it's the thing that I still don't, I think that findable crickets is inevitable. Critical.
It's
where are they?
harder to find
in a room.
It's finding harder and harder to find critics. It's all influencers now. And you just press a button and then you've beamed the game into your own house.
And they make so much noise, and there they are, right at the end of it.
I think that your Beetle dream
what up, YouTube? Is your boy? Yeah.
Eminently doable, but I don't know whether, I've always wanted, a story that properly responds to the things that you do, the sort of, the dream, right? The dream, and that's what I dreamt of when I was little, and it still hasn't come, and I'm cool with that now, but it's definitely, that's the thing that's missing. And I think it's that reactive world that I think immediately puts off people who aren't into games. Like, why did it do that? Because that's not what I intended. And, the fact that games don't respond to people in the way that the real world does, I think that's the big barrier.
Some and some. I think you might live to regret that in some scenarios.
Yeah.
Especially, imagine how much,
I think it's probably unsolvable, unlike Beatles.
I'm just thinking that, what if, it just meant that you went about your life in games as if you would react and as the social conventions would dictate.
I do that anyway. I played Red Dead Redemption not being fucking depressed whenever I have to kill somebody.
But, how would you get through Call of Duty? What would you'd not play?
I just sing to myself, hum and rock myself as I play. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's not real.
This is getting really bleak.
It's getting real.
entertainment.
Have games made you happy at all in some way?
Not lately.
I'm really feeling this war. Really feeling it.
Oh, I want to go home, Mother.
Didn't think I could feel. Felt this one. Thanks.
I think it's been nice watching VR go through several waves of hype. Not in the sense of it's been nice seeing the hype, but it's been nice seeing them get better at some things. And people do more interesting things with them over time, you know? That's been nice.
I think my thing sort of related to Alex's in a way, which is that, I think the obvious thing that like we just haven't broken through is like conversations with game characters and realistic conversation engines that actually produce sort of believable interactions. This is a subset of, you know, feeling yourself more in a more human way. Whereas, you know, that seems to be a barrier that games just can't push through, where, you know, we're still dependent on pretty fixed ways of inputting what you want your character to say or how you want them to react to the world. And
I'm interested in Spirit AI on that front because the work that they're doing is
download a ghost directly into the game.
Well, it sounds interesting, like, and it has been. Well, I mean, look, you know how I feel about ghosts. It's that
you are afraid of some ghosts.
Look, I feel like, yeah, they're not real, but they don't know that. So
what?
You know?
Exactly.
Anyway, where was I? This felt like a good
Spirit
point.
AI. Ghosts AI.
Look, so I didn't want to
sneak up behind your teacher to pot.
Oh my! So I don't want to sound like I'm being really down on games and why haven't they delivered this, that, and the other? Because I think it's more that my background with games was such that I didn't actually think of them as in the way of, oh, I hope at some point they can do this. They were just a thing that I would dip into or be interested by, but I wasn't sat there going, I hope the tech will one day deliver this or that kind of experience. It was kind of, and so I haven't been sat here going, where's my ... or like, what's like, I wish I was going to say holodeck, but no one wishes the holodeck was real. Well, not the way it works in Star Trek. You die.
It's okay.
It's one way to go, isn't it?
Have fun.
I mean, pick one. Do you want to live or do you want to die in games?
But what, I better go to the Wild West?
Oh, but you didn't like it. You got depressed in Red Dead Redemption.
That's because it made me shoot the people.
And what do you think the holodeck's going to do?
I could talk to them.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a greater than 0 chance that I'm going to get strangled by Moriarty. But to be honest, that's in my like top 4 ways to go.
Yeah.
Right. You do realise that however you go, I'm writing on your tombstone, it's how he would have wanted it.
Oh yeah.
Like, no matter what, how ridiculous whatever happens is.
Look, I don't know. It could be worse, is what I'm saying.
But yeah, I guess, like, I guess I just wanted to note that I actually don't think I think of games in that way. Like, I don't look at them and go, oh, you know, I wish that, I don't know.
Look, I am pouring all of my money into a Kickstarter that will allow me to be strangled by Moriarty.
Oh my God. Oh.
I don't think that'll get on Stadia, you know?
And I've got the stretch goal Chris Roberts plushie to prove it.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, I'm thinking about them stretch goals.
Scratch goals.
Scratch goals.
Oh, we're forgetting how to speak.
Goals.
I'm the only person drinking on this podcast. It's extraordinary.
I've got a chamomile tea.
That doesn't count. Our final question is actually a bit of a return to an old at this point tradition. Public Dog writes, Dear cromulent critics.
Good luck
Hear
finding
them chirping. Hear them chirp. Many years ago, on a different email address, I inscribed the first grudge on the first page of the great book of petty gripes regarding Mass Effect 3's many qualities or lack thereof.
I'm going to go ahead and stop you and say there have been many grudges prior to that point.
Well, I mean, yeah, we basically just stapled a notebook to the back of the real book of grudges. But yeah, in the years since, we've gotten things to be actually angry at. So much so that video game gripes no longer register. As Anthem descends from the sky, knocked out of place by weird rat men, Resident Evil 2 is reborn into the excellent engine of Resident Evil 7, I'd propose that the end times are here, and it's time to write the last grudge and close the book forever. What is this? Your final grudge?
No.
That's from Public Dark. Oh. Pip will not close the book.
Oh God, no.
The book shall never be closed.
I just think that as long as there are human beings, there will be petty things to be annoyed about and hold against them forever.
Well, but we're positing that the world is ending.
I mean, well, that in and of itself is quite the inconvenience.
Alex, do you have a final grudge to level against the games industry?
No.
Okay, well, thanks for playing.
What's annoyed you recently?
What's that?
Like, do you want the pen for a while for the book?
I don't want Google. I just don't want it.
No, thank you, Google.
No, thank you. No, it's not even a thank you.
How would you find things
Google.
out?
I use DuckDuckGo. I literally use DuckDuckGo. I do have a Gmail account, and that's not good. Yeah, like us, Ask Jeeves. That's always.
It's just Jeeves now.
Yeah.
It's just...
Or Ask. Hang on, which one is it?
I think it's Ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's got Jeeves? That would have been.
I don't know what Jeeves is. Oh my God.
Jeeves is
Jeeves.
like just retired. He's like, oh God. Maybe he's looking after Lycos.
Aww. I think Lycos is dead.
No! Why would Lycos be dead?
Alta Vista.
Okay, but is that where they live now?
That's one of Lycos's friends. One that I used to search on in 1997.
It's a year of Zelda, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I mean, Ocarina of Time.
98.
Is it?
Yeah, 98 was a banging year. So it's a Half-Life.
I feel I was going to say I feel old. I just feel like I haven't remembered a year.
Yeah, what happened to 1997?
That was the year that I owned Fresh Hits 97. And
that will be
it's likely.
Yeah.
And so, or maybe not. Maybe it came out like at the end of the year.
Actually.
Who even knows? However.
That's true. I need to know this. When do they come out? At the end of the year or at the start of the year?
I think maybe part with it because they have the summer bangers, don't they?
So it's like an autumnal celebration.
Is it now that has the Christmas #1 on? Now that's what I call music or whatever.
I don't know. I'm eternally surprised they still exist.
One of my leaving presents was Now That's What I Call Now, and it was 100 songs from the Now That's What I Call Music back catalog.
Was it made by the Now people?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like a self-celebratory thing.
No, that's what I call
It's got some Leona Lewis on there, it's got Akon, it's got just there's a lot going on. I'll be listening to that. I don't have a CD drive. I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm going to make sure
I'm going to CD technology.
That's not a grudge, though.
No grudges, though.
No.
Okay, good.
Do you have one?
Yeah. I was...
You've been waiting very patiently.
I have been waiting very patiently.
You could have said.
No, I never stop Pip which is on a now roll. That's how you lose all your skin.
No, that's what I call rolls.
Only because she loves you.
Yeah, exactly.
I was right about Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh.
I was right about it. I've seen this
Hang on a minute. What are you specifically putting the grudge to? I can make a guess.
Just the universe, really. But I've seen this take sort of slip out lately. I'm not going to name any names, and I don't bear any ill will towards individual writers. But people have said, like, oh, Anthem's made me appreciate what a game Andromeda was. To which I reply, nothing but sort of screaming at the heavens.
Scorn.
It makes me want to run out in the rain and tear all my clothes off and just make weird facial expressions. In tribute to a game that was flawed, but I liked it very much. And I was right. And I feel bad that it got such a shooing and it didn't deserve it because it had a nice scene at the end where you all get to movie night on the spaceship and it's funny and nice and all the characters are there and you like them because they're your space friends.
Oh no, that was Mass Effect 3.
Yeah,
I was going to say there was a plant at the end of it, I think.
That's Mass Effect 1.
Someone had a pot plant.
Oh, Mass Effect.
Or stepped out into the pot plant. I don't know. There was, someone, my Commander Shepard stepped off, presumably a spaceship, into some kind of garden, greenhouse, pot plant. Don't know. Garden centre. I don't know. But that's what happened at the end of it. I remember nothing else.
I don't think that's No, that is possible. That is possible if you did the synthesis ending.
I don't really know what that means.
Well,
photosynthesis, because plants.
I guess so. No, you would have been a bit robot, and you would have stepped out onto the world where the Normandy crashes.
Possibly. There were plants.
That's
literally
true of some
all
worlds.
I can remember. The sun was out.
Daytime then.
It feels like we're edging towards your memory being Shepard gets out of a spaceship, which happens continually through the whole series.
Yeah, but the
And indeed
reason...
into Andromeda, where the Shepard isn't in it, but nonetheless, people go, oh, a spaceship, I'm not in it anymore. Yeah. I'm here on this planet now.
I feel like it must have been the end, because that feels like a climactic point that I would have somehow registered.
I think I know what scene you're
tank.
referring to. I think I know what scene you're referring to.
Anyway, so that's nothing to do with what you were talking about, and
No,
I'm
it's
very
not.
sorry I've totally hijacked this conversation. Would you like to add me talking over you to the Book of Grudges? Because I can do that.
Because you can do that.
Oh, it's my book.
If you'd like to send us a question or grudge for a future episode of the Crate and Crowbar, you can do so by emailing us at questions@crateandcrowbar.com. If you'd like to hang out with our lovely Discord community, you can find them on Discord. The link is in the show notes or on our website at crateandcrowbar.com. Got a YouTube channel, video there, maybe. It's at youtube.com/crateandcrowbar. And none of it would be possible without the very kind support of our Patreon backers. Thank you very much if you have chosen to back us on Patreon. If you'd like to know more about this process, and its outcomes, you can find that at patreon.com/crateandcrowbar. A theme emerges. Is that it?
You're burning out.
I am burning out.
So.
It's quite a good outro, I thought, so far.
Contacts,
Did we Twitter?
Twitter.
Well, we don't tend to do it anymore because no one wants to.
Oh.
You
want to?
it's dead drop address
I
is
meant
only.
at Crate and Crowbar.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, we do have a Twitter account for the Crate and Crowbar. The only thing you'll get there is a string of episodes that you've probably already listened to, but it does exist.
Rate and review us.
Rate and review us on iTunes. Suppose that helps. People have asked if we're going to get the podcast on Spotify. I will certainly try and find out how that works. Yeep, indeed.
And the other one.
Overcast.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Once upon a time, it was enough to have an RSS feed. Nowadays, it's all feed me directly into this mega corporation, Chris. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there was something. Anyway, that's
Have my
for
soul.
offline.
Yeah, well, I suppose
Well,
that's that then,
Send
isn't
it
it?
out as a zine, maybe.
so,
Thanks for listening, everybody.